right, if the board administration can make their ways up, we are late.
I was like October 16th.
All right, it is now 6:13. I do apologize, but the board has some emergency matters, so we met in closed session beginning at 5:30 under exceptions C1 and C11, so personnel and threat and pending litigation. I'd like a roll call.
Mr. Riddle,
Present.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Here.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Here.
President Ewing.
Here. So we do have a quorum. I know all board members are present. I assume Mr. McBride will be in any second. But now I would like a motion to continue our Student Achievement Committee meeting. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Riddle, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Mr. McBride, Mr. Ewing.
Yes, we are now back in our Student Achievement Committee meeting. And we are at item 3A, which is the approval of the October 19th, 2021 minutes.
Mr. Riddle, I so move we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions, corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. I do want to take a minute before we get started just to say again, happy birthday to Board Member Leguizamo. So service even on her birthday. We thank you for your commitment to the board and for another year of life. With that, we are at our discussion items. We have 4A, which is the transition from Naviance to School Links.
Okay. Good evening, Board President, board members, members of the board, colleagues, and community members. I'm going to ask Dr. Stratigakis to come up and present on this item. Is that working? Is that working? Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I know, I got it. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with everyone this evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are going to go through a presentation which I'm going to respectfully ask you to hold questions till the end, only because I am starting the presentation for Ms. Fulton, but then our vendor from School Links is going to be zoomed in, and there's going to be technical issues with sound where she can't hear. So I will go through these slides. Ms. Fang will go through her slides, and then we are more than happy to address any questions or issues or concerns. So thank you for that. Okay, what is School Links? School Links is a modern college and career readiness platform to prepare students for what comes after graduation. School Links helps students discover their interests and strengths, explore colleges and careers, and create an individualized career and academic plan that best reflects their post-secondary goals. Why School Links? It is student-friendly, user-friendly, easier to navigate than Naviance, offers more engaging functions for students, provides real-life scenarios, and we have received feedback from counselors, building administration, students, and other external and internal stakeholders beginning last spring as we took the journey in exploring this pathway. We wanted to get ahead of ourselves, do some pre-planning before we brought it to the board. The feedback that we have received from counselors and students, stakeholders, is letting us know that we can have a seamless transition into this program. And we have a transition plan for that as well. And because of the front-loading activities that have occurred, this will make it easier to transition over from the 6th graders all the way through the 12th graders. So the Stakeholder Engagement Transition Plan was created by myself, Ms. Fulton, and Ms. Fang from School Links. We have provided information sessions to principals, counselors, and students. We are planning if the board so approves this, information sessions for parents slated for December, Facebook Live. We've already established demo accounts for all of our counselors from 6 to 12, and they have been using them and have been trained. Our administrators from 6 to 12 have also been given demo accounts, as well as the Welcome Center and members of IT. We have demo accounts established for our middle and high school students, including our student board member. Our timeline would be the phase-in, which is the first needs and capacity analysis, which we have been working on, which is what led us to this presentation this evening. Phase 2 would be where we would involve Ms. Rushika Sharma and Mr. Christensen for data migration and scope and sequence. Then we would begin a training and platform launch for 6th through 11th grades. Phase 4 is the launching of the course planner and the individual learning plans. And then phase 5 is the college application manager launch. The next steps, if the board so decides, is that the district will continue to engage stakeholders and solicit feedback. The district will focus on transitioning 6th graders and 11th grade students to School Links. I want to make very clear for everyone that the district will keep the senior class of 2022 on Naviance to ensure minimum interruption to their college application experience. However, access to School Links will not be blocked for the senior class. They will still have access as a matter of equity, but we don't want to disrupt their senior year. So they will have both, so we can provide for them. The Naviance platform will continue to serve as a backup solution for families that need time for change adjustments during the transition year. The district will help promote the usage of School Links, and the Office of Post-Secondary, the Director of Post-Secondary and myself, the Office of Post-Secondary, we will manage the transition plan and implementation of Naviance to School Links. I am now at this point going to turn the presentation over to the CEO and founder of School Links, Ms. Katie Fang.
Where is it?
Now. On you?
Yeah, my colleague.
Looks like she's muted. Or you're muted. Yeah.
That's me, not her.
I have her on text also.
Okay, she should do. You want to unmute and let her know to go?
You're ready. If you're ready, you can go ahead with your presentation.
Oh, sorry, there was some echo. Did you say that I can start?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Fang. I am with School Links. If I'm understanding correctly, do I have 10 minutes time to present?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. Sounds good. All right, let's get started. So today, my 10-minute goal is to get you a brief overview of School Links to understand what we provide as a company and as a platform. So let's dive right into it. So we've gone through a very comprehensive evaluation process with the district. And after the evaluation, and the district decided that School Links is the platform that fits the school district's needs the most for the following reasons. One is because we are a very modern and user-friendly platform for students. And second, we are very much data-driven for school districts to handle all compliance. And third, we have many tools to support counselors with their large caseload. And I'm going to illustrate the tools and the features we provide for all types of users on the platform. All right, so what is School Links? So Schoollinks is a very comprehensive college and career readiness platform, and it is bringing all the missing pieces together in one place. So the district previously has adopted a more traditional college and career readiness solution, which was focused on college exploration, career exploration, and scholarships. And the understanding is that there was not a lot of usage because the user interface wasn't that user-friendly, right? And there are many different pieces that wasn't really in the actual centralized platform solution. And with Schoollinks, what it does is it not only consolidates all the pieces within a traditional college and career readiness platform, but also it brings together the college and career readiness indicators that are required by the state of Illinois in the industry partner piece, right? If you have a mentorship network and community partner, it's all going to be there. And third, if your students graduate from your district, they will still have access to the platform indefinitely to provide you the case management capability to truly understand where are our students or alumni going and how are they doing, right? So this is a very comprehensive college and career readiness solution from K through 12 and even after graduation. All right, so we're going to be in good company. Lots of school districts are using Schoollinks already, and especially in the community, right? Just to name a few, you have Naperville 203, Evanston, Main Township, and Indian Perry, and those can be very, very good collaboration partners in terms of implementation and having just the network there to do professional development and share best practice. So today, I'm going to focus on a couple things to talk about because we really are doing this for students, right? It is a student-centered platform to streamline all their needs. So we can help them explore career interest, explore college and career, setting their goals, and making those four-year plans and ILPs that are required by the state of Illinois. And also, last but not least, financial literacy. Not a lot of students or not a lot of platforms incorporate the financial literacy piece inside of a CCR platform. But for us, it's extremely important to help students understand the decisions they make actually have financial consequences, right? And we have a gamified experience to power that, to help students to understand and also families to understand. Okay, so diving into a couple features, I grabbed a couple screenshots and GIFs to save time. So this is one of the career interest inventories we provide. And on the phone and on iPads, it's swipeable, right? And these are the type of social media-like experiences that Schoollinks provides that really, really drive usage because it's not dry. It's not like ACT, SAT tests that you click through, but it's interactive. It's swipeable on mobile devices. So it's extremely engaging. And we have career exploration, right? 16 DOE aligned career clusters with trending careers and military careers for students to explore. We have videos and detailed information, national versus regional data, really to help students understand what is out there, right? Not only the traditional careers, but the trending careers like data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. What are those type of careers that are going to be in demand even when they graduate? So this is our career center. Then after we talk about careers, we don't just stop there. We make sure that we're connecting them to actual real world opportunities like internships, part-time jobs, and apprenticeships, right? Even though the school districts might not have that many opportunities in the community, but we're actually connecting them way beyond the community because we also have virtual internships on the platform that they can apply to. So this is something that is really, really unique to Schoollinks. Then we have the community engagement, right? It's not just about helping students to figure out what colleges they want to go to if they're going to college, but also help them understand what careers and what type of people they want to be, right? So on Schoolings, we have this industry partner piece where we allow this type of community engagement where we can have all the industry partners, employers in a community, mentors in a community to actually be engaged with the district to schedule events such as a career fair, to help out as a mentor, to be a guest speaker in a classroom, right? So all these type of opportunities for collaboration now can be scalable via a platform, which is Schoolings. And these are just some of the things that they can do on the platform. And next one is internship and service hour tracking. And a lot of our districts need to do CTE reporting, and that's the compliant piece that I was mentioning in the beginning. And we keep all that data in one place so that school districts don't have to pull reports from different places. Then we talk about exploration, right? The education path, the post-secondary pathways that they want to pursue. So we not only have 4-year, 2-year, but also non-degree programs for students to take a look at. We have all the information. You can search by map view and list view. We have a ton of information on a school specifically, but we also have this virtual reality tour that they can take. And it is super, super cool. You can open up our mobile app, and we have hundreds of tours that you are able to just view it in the goggle, right? So this is really the equity piece that we are striving for, because we know that not a lot of students can go travel coast to coast and visit schools. So what we are doing is bringing the tours to them on a digital device, and they can really have that immersive experience to feel like they're almost there. Financial literacy, like what I was talking about, and this is extremely important to us because no matter if you're going to college, 2-year, 4-year, there's always this reality check that we want students to go through, right? So we want to make sure that they understand the different decisions that they make will have consequences, and those are real financial consequences. So we made a game out of it and made sure that students can set their goals depending on their career preference and college and lifestyle, right? And then we are showing them their financial outlook, the debt that they have to take on, and the money they're going to make, and the taxes that they have to pay, right? So it's a really good process for them to go through, for them and also their families to go through, to understand where they can make adjustments. And 4-year plan planning. So it's not just exploration. We're not just talking about college or career. We're also talking about academics. So we want to make sure that we are making the connection, right? We are making the connection between passion and also academics. So Schoolings has a real-time air validating for graduation requirement checking 4-year planner for students to really understand what they need to take. CCR learning, we have a lot of college and career readiness topics that they can use in career classes or at home with their family. We have more than 80 features. If you're interested in learning more, feel free to go to our website. This is a QR code scanner. If you want to open up your camera, feel free to scan it. I'm happy to answer any questions. And we also have a lot of professional development and implementation lesson plans for all the counselors and CTE teachers to use. All right, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Dr. Strategakis. We know that's a lot to digest in a short amount of time, and there's a lot of material there. So we're happy to field questions right now, but also want to give you the opportunity to explore those, the 80 pages and everything else that Katie presented today, so that you can also ask, more detailed questions.
We're going to have to move her 1 moment again. She can hear you.
Can I ask a question?
Please, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and this is a school-based question instead of to Miss Katie. What is the difference between, and I'm going to say the cost first off, between Naviance and school links?
Do you have the difference, the question is the difference between the cost between Naviance and School Links? We can get that information to you.
We'll send it out tomorrow, Ms. Hannah.
Oh, are you done?
Yeah.
Is there anything that School Links does better than Naviance? Or is there anything Naviance does better than School Links?
So I'm going to let Dr. Strategakis come up, but I will tell you this. When I looked at it, I looked at it about a year and a half ago. I was introduced to it at one of the conferences. I can't remember if it was the ESSA conference or another one. The thing that, and I actually met, I met Katie. We talked several times. The thing that I was most appreciative of was the fact that it was user-friendly, and it was user-friendly for kids. So they, just like she showed, I manipulated it. For me, I thought, I'm sorry, it's just odd hearing my voice in the back here. I thought that was the greatest feature of it, is that it is something that is engaging to students. It is user-friendly on both ends, for the teacher, for the counselor, for the student. And then I like the fact that there was this nice continuum that we could use from middle school through high school. There was, just like it was highlighted earlier with CTE, the opportunities for students to take these virtual tours of campuses. This is really quality work that went into, in the programming that went into the sites that they're using. I think all of those pieces are really what contributed to my interest in it. And we know that we had spent time and money on Naviance. It was a valid question about the money, right? I think the greatest concern was how were we using it and what were our users saying? And that's part of the reason why we wanted to get stakeholder input. Can I just finish? Yeah, that's awesome, thanks. So, I think those are really critical pieces. I can have Katie talk to the differences, but I just, she is representing School Links. It's her product, right? So we're the users. I think on our end, what's most important is what we think is more user-friendly. And as I was saying, it was important to get stakeholder input. So we had to go into the field, talk to students, get their input about what they liked better, right? Talk to parents, talk to teachers, talk to counselors. And that's part of why that stakeholder input and that was part of the implementation plan. Engaging people from across departments with Eric Christensen, with Avonda Fulton, with our the post-secondary team with Dr. Strategakis, but also making sure we were talking to teaching and learning, and most importantly, our students and our parents. So that was really critical. Katie can talk about the differences, and that's fine. We can move forward with that. But I do think what's most important is getting that feedback from stakeholders.
Yeah, I agree with you. She's going to give a School Link perspective, Dr. Cesario.
I agree, and so...
Shar, are you comfortable with that, or would you like to hear from School
Well,
Links?
I was just wondering if we were losing anything by the transition.
Right.
Does Naviance do something that's excellent that we're not going to have?
Yeah, so maybe if you can get a document that does I'm sure there's.
We actually
and
we
we can send that to the
actually
board
started that.
instead
Yep.
of having
we
the
can
rep
share that
that's selling
with the board.
product. Yeah.
No problem.
What did the students say about
The
the School Links? And I know you didn't have a chance to talk with all 4,000.
No. They
Right.
pulled focus
So-
groups. We try to pull focus groups from different areas to get different perspectives at different grade levels. But I can, Jesus, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk with my hands too much. I can have Dr. Strategakis speak to that.
And let me just say, because Naviance has been in the school district for a while, and my concern is that the students are acclimated into using Naviance, and how long is it going to take for kids to get trained and transition into School Links to be able to navigate it the way that the way they have mastered Naviance. And it didn't take 1 year for them to learn that. And they, would begin using Naviance as in their freshman year. And by the time they got to their senior year, with the continuum there, okay, they had a mastery of it. And they also could look at different colleges and everything through Naviance, okay? And I'm seeing things that were not in Naviance, okay, with School Links, okay? But my concern is the students, are the students, excuse me, and how long is it going to take to get the adults trained to train the kids?
I understand you, Ms. Hannah, and I hear you loud and clear. I'm going to address the first part. In terms of the training, the counselors have already been trained. We've been using school time and planning days, so the school counselors, through the direction of Ms. Fulton, have been trained. This year, what we would be doing is leaving the seniors on their platform. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the transition of why. Obviously, the School Links person is going to sell their product. I understand that. I purposely, when I went through this, made sure we weren't losing anything. One of the data points, though, Ms. Hannah, and I know it's been in the district for a while, and I know that the kids who have mastered it have mastered it. But we're not getting a lot of usage from the kids on Naviance. So that's why we set up focus groups, we had pizza, we had the counselors, we had the children, we had the student board member. We let the building administrators select the students. They know their students far better than I do at Lincoln Center. And we had demo accounts so that the kids could play with it, could start figuring it out. And because of this generation of students are so much more technology is so much easier for them, I am not anticipating, and I'm not making light of this, this is something that they can navigate from their phone. They're going to have this mastered on their own abilities, even with our training, because it's the language that they speak. It's the digital technology world that they live in that, for some of us, it's not our reality. So in terms of this counselor training, that has already taken place. In terms of student input has already been received. I will quote the student school board member, because I don't want to quote the other kids, but he was very fond of it. He thought his students would like the transition, so please speak with him. That's one of your resources as your student board member. And he thought that this was more, the words we're going to keep using, interactive and user-friendly. Now, the goal, Ms. Hannah, and this is part of my goal, if we do transition into this platform, I have to monitor utilization rates, because my concern as director of post-secondary with Naviance, it's not a bad program. We were using it. For whatever reason, the utilization never went, student utilization never went to where we thought it was going to go. So I hope I'm answering your question, but it's twofold. Yes, our students right now currently know how to use it, many of them, but they're not using it. So that's the question that I was looking at with the college and career coordinator and the post-secondary team is, okay, how can we get them to be more engaged in their own post-secondary career?
Well, they're not using it because of COVID. And everybody was on.
Can I ask a question?
Everybody was on remote learning.
Oh, no, before we've done trend data for the last. We've done trend data for the last 5 years or 7 years. Yeah.
Really,
sure.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely, ma'am.
I'm almost at the end. I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
Sorry. I think to Miss Hannah's point, I very, very well remember Naviance. I know why I didn't use it. I mean, I was a straight A student and I thought it was ugly. And that different people use different tools, and I feel like when you're swiping, when looking at maps, when you feel like you're in it, I absolutely, would be for a tool like this. I think our students would connect well to it. And, like Ms. Stratogaskis said, the students will adapt quickly. And I think that, I love what Ms. Hannah said, though, about training our staff, because doing that will only enable the students to dive deeper into the tool. So I want to affirm that. And so shout out to you, Ms. Stratogaskis and Ms. Fulton for looking at a tool that was, far more advanced than maybe what Naviance had at its disposal, at least from what I remember it when I was a student. I had a couple questions for Katie, and these are more in-depth questions, because I think that some of the components of the program are addressing needs that I've seen for so many students, especially when it comes to like course planning and things like that. So with this course planner, are we able to have our teachers upload their courses and for students to see what is available during the next couple years, as they from one year to the next? And I think coupled with that is, how often is this tool updated for students? Like who does that updating? Is it in collaboration with Katie's team, or?
Right. So School Links is going to connect with Infinite Campus, our student information system.
Okay.
And they're going to communicate, and Josue's team is going to figure out whether it's nightly or weekly or whatever. It's probably going to be nightly. It's going to communicate.
Okay.
So the courses that are in Infinite Campus, the ones they're doing through the student portal, the ones that they're doing with their counselors, are going to talk and be just directly with them, and they're going to go back and forth.
Okay.
So I don't know the exact rules. Is if they change School Links, will that change Infinite Campus, so they have to do it the other way around?
Okay.
But they will be in constant communication with each other, so that if the plan is, I'm no longer taking this course my senior year, it would be changed in both.
Okay. Yeah, that would be a huge update for some students.
Yeah, and so, again, there was a lot of planning that went into this and on cross collaboration between departments. One other thing you said is about the usage, and along with tracking it, there has to be expectations set. So training and expectations, that was built into the plan as well. So how are we monitoring the usage, and what are the expectations that are set by the schools, right?
Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question is more technical. I see the contract initially was signed August 30th, but here we are in the middle of November. I'm just wondering, is this first year, there's transition and training and all that, and it's more expensive the first year. Are we being counted now or for 71,000, or is this going to start January?
We didn't move on any of this because we needed to have an implementation plan.
Right.
We needed to have stakeholder input. There were a number of things that had to take place before we could do any of this. And so we needed to have all that information before we could come to the board with a presentation and to the community with questions regarding this. I think the input from Eric's team, from the IT team in terms of how this would work from a technical aspect was really critical. And then also making sure that we had a plan laid out. What are the expectations? Who's responsible for what? So, and then how are we monitoring it? And not monitoring for compliance sake, but monitoring for support. How are we providing input as to when we can use this and how we can use this to better expose students to what's out there? So that was a big part of why we didn't move when we moved. We talked about this at actually prior. I said I went 2 years ago. We looked at it. We spent some time. We wanted to talk about Naviance and what was the difference. Pandemic hit. Miss Avonda Fulton brought it up again. We talked about it, but then we said these things needed to be in place before we could move on anything. And so this is where we're at right now, where we're ready to present to the board. There's some questions about cost, right? And what the difference is between Naviance and School Links. I think we've outlined some of that, but I think you all have the information, so you can delve a little bit deeper into it and ask some specific questions to us on the implementation side, and then to the vendor on the product side.
Okay, so basically, we're not starting with September the 1st, and it's when we, sign the contract and the board approves it and all.
We're waiting to get approval. We're not.
Right.
We didn't know.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So
this is the planning phase, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
One quick question for you. I just wanted some clarification on the quote, right? It does note that there is a 5% annual increase. I just wanted to make sure if the numbers on the quote is inclusive of that 5% annual increase or not. So if you can just
We can look into that and get back
come
to
back,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll write that question down and we'll get back to you.
So this
There's
is
the
a
escalation,
multi-year
yeah.
contract
It's escalation the
that
second year
we're
and the
getting
third year.
ready to sign off on. And for the, if my math is correct, we're over 200,000. Just about $201,000
Yeah,
for the
3 years.
for the 3 years. And how are we going to monitor this to make sure that it is doing everything that that we're being sold that it's going to do?
So that's an excellent question. That was kind of what I spoke to before, is that setting expectations, having an implementation plan in terms of monitoring the usage from our end, and then also getting it from the schooling side. What's being used, what's not being used, what's underutilized. We can get reports from them on how we're using it and also consulting with them on how best to use it. I think first and foremost, though, what I said before is really important, and to what you're speaking to right now, is having some expectations about when it's being implemented and how it should be implemented and how often we're tracking that. And that's going to take some collaboration between Lincoln Center and the schools via the area superintendents and also working closely with the principals and the counselors.
Yeah, because if things, I would hope that as we go through this, and if there's things that are not being used, that our contract with them would be made in such a way that we would be able to get dollar credits, discounts, or different services, or some kind of compensation
Okay.
that would suffice for if the students aren't using any aspect of this product here.
Yeah, I can't speak to that specifically until we get some data on, and until we actually implement and we see where what we're doing, right?
That's what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I am saying that in
The flexibility to
advising-
adjust the product.
Yes,
to,
and
yes.
that should be.
Yeah, I'll
that
bring
should
that
be
up as well.
wrote Within
That's a good point.
the contract, and not after the fact.
That's a good point. Yeah, that there's some flexibility
Right.
that it's not static contract for 3 years.
That's
That
right.
if we find after the first year or year and a half that we're not using this aspect as much, that we can remove that and add another one in or whatever.
Or what-
Yeah,
but some
yeah.
kind of
Makes
credit
sense.
discount,
Yeah, no.
Because when we were using Naviance,
Yeah.
Naviance provided the school district with a lot of different services that we didn't have to pay for.
Okay, and we can look into that. I don't know the specifics behind it, but again, we can look into that, and if we can look into that and discuss that with them.
So little.
All right, it is 6:49, 6:50, so we finished the first topic.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
You have a really solid product.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Dr. Strategakis.
All right, we get the agenda back on the screen.
A little Peter nose.
Sounds good.
Next up is item B, Culture Climate Specialist position for Waukegan High School.
Can I do this?
Yeah, please.
It's going to be quick. As you know, I've been taking deep dives at the high school due to the pandemic. I would like to add 2 more culture climates at both facilities to work on more restorative practices so that it's not punitive. And these will be this year's position. We will come back to the board at the end of this year to see if we need more or if we need less. So I'm asking for 2 positions, 2 for Brookside and 2 for the Washington campus.
Any more?
4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are we adding any more safety officers?
I cannot speak on that as of right now. As I stated earlier, I'm taking a deep dive. I'm currently at Brookside. We have rearranged the safety officers at Brookside, filled some vacancies, and we feel we do have enough now once we are completely full. I am not at Washington campus yet, where the concern that there may not be enough. As I stated, I am to go there this week, but we all know that we're going to a conference this week, so I'm going to try to get over there tomorrow. But at this time, I'm requesting the approval to add 4 climate culture specialists for this year, especially due to the pandemic and some of the behavior that we are seeing.
Mr. Riddle?
Only the question I asked is, how quickly do you anticipate hiring these 4 people, and are you solid on that June 30th date? Might you continue it past that date if needed?
If it's needed, we're definitely coming in May or, before that,
Okay.
pre-thinking. I just don't want to get way out there without going to Washington campus and really assessing everything. And also, if we're going to have any structural changes, I'd like input from the people that would be leading that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms.
Thank you,
Wozniak?
Superintendent.
How many climate cultures do we currently have? at the high
Currently,
school?
we have 2 at,
3.
but Simeon does restorative practices. So it's 2 that actually do, you can come up and speak. Simeon handles more of the restorative practices. I don't know his exact title, but you can handle it, Amanda.
Sorry for my delay. I was at Brookside with parent meetings, so I just got here, and my apologies. So currently at Brookside campus, there are 3 culture climate specialists. Mr. Viltz does dedicate his time to helping support students with restorative mediation conversations and conferences, so that we intervene prior to having to do an in-school or out-of-school suspension. So his primary focus is that, and so that leaves Mr. Anderson and Mr. Thompson at the Brookside campus to help support with the other typical roles and responsibilities of a culture climate specialist. At Washington campus, we do have 3 culture climate specialists currently assigned to Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Leguizamo?
So I was just going to ask for 2 asks here, and that would be the organizational chart for the campuses and how these culture and climate specialists would go into that organizational chart. The second thing is if you can also provide what are the current caseloads that our culture and climate specialists have.
We can get you all of that. I will tell you, Mrs. Leguizamo, that the organizational chart may change with my deep dive. As a result, why I'm asking for 2 more climate cultures at Brookside. I'm looking at changing the structure and the alignment of that, but I can give you the current one. So I just want to be very transparent that that may be changing in the upcoming weeks.
And are we going to see the discipline reports for all of that week? For
You should be getting discipline reports weekly, Ms. Hannah.
okay, so it is covering all of the time then.
Everything that you've seen, yes. Nothing has changed just because I'm there. That everything that you're getting is still there.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Okay. Dr. Cesario?
Okay, that concludes our discussion items.
Other items have been presented for information. They're there.
I'll email my questions.
Or no, I'm going to take them because I know the audience, if they're here and they have questions, just like before, what we've done is, we're not going through each of these, Ms. Hannah. Everybody on the board has asked that we limit the meetings. These items are pretty straightforward, have the information, they have the attachments of what they're asking for. If there's a question on any of them, we give this time for the community or for the board. But again, if you've read through it and asked the questions, they can be addressed. If you haven't, this is done just for time. It took 45 minutes for the first item.
So, Mr. President, B and C has no attachment.
Yeah, if you click on it though, can you click on B and show what it says?
It's not-
Yeah, so what is being asked for is right there.
Attachment, Charlotte.
Maybe you have to log in again.
Yeah.
Log in.
On B and C?
Yeah,
It's those two.
Mm-hmm.
they all have attachments.
But he's in the public side of it, so what you're seeing on the screen is he's on the public side of it, so what you're seeing on the screen is the public, so I just want to make sure that it is visible in the public side, to Ms. Hannah's point, because we can see it when we're signed
It's
in
not.
through the
So those two
administrative
items are right there in
and
the
executive.
description.
Yeah.
So all of that's in the description.
I do have a question though, so I don't know if you do want to just go down the line,
Yep.
Board President? Okay.
All right, we are at A, which is renewal of A through Z for grades K to 5. Any questions on that item? B, Palo Alto Firewall renewal. It's just a renewal, all licensing. C, Firewave yearly renewal payment approval. Again, it's a renewal. D, FY22 Urban Gateways Consulting Agreement, Art Corps Grant.
Question here.
Go ahead. That's Leguizamo.
This question is actually going to be for both D and E, which is regarding the Art Corps grant. And so I know that this grant is going to complete at the end of this school year. So I have two questions. A is, what is our plan after 2022? Do we have something in line, another grant that we're looking at, maybe the same grant we're looking to reapply for? And that's an easy question, so yay or nay. B is, this right here is to import art into our curriculum. And so I was wondering, why aren't we partnering with our Arts Foundation for Waukegan instead of reaching out to Chicago, Evanston, outside organizations, which I know we have, like a dance folkloric organization in Waukegan. We have instructors of arts in Waukegan. So just trying to understand that a little bit more, if you can provide that detail.
Good.
I can just speak to the partnership. So this is very similar to the EIR grant, the STEM grant that we have. When you write the grant proposal, you identify in that proposal who your partners are going to be for the length of that grant, for the term of that grant. So same kind of situation with EIR, how we partner with Northeastern and ISB and some of those other annual agreements that we always bring forward to you all.
Yep.
Same situation here with these partners.
Okay.
I'll let Lori speak to the continuation after the grant expires. Yep.
Good evening. In answer to your question, there is potential for us to extend it another year. So because there is some funding because of the pandemic, so we are looking to extend another year. At that point, then we will look into reapplying for a grant like this.
Okay. And at that extension point, we won't be able to add in additional partners, or would we not be able to? Just trying to see if we could expand that to a little bit more local
I can certainly
partners.
look into that. I'll look into that. I'll talk to the directors and we can look into that, certainly.
Yeah, let us know if you need contact information for the Waukegan Arts Foundation. They have a robust list of artists and those that can professionally teach in the whatever curriculum you want. So appreciate that. Thank you. Those are all my questions, Board President.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Dr. Knoll.
Are there any other questions on items D? Item E, Dr. Joseph Fisher Education Services Consulting Agreement. Item E, Text Resources for Curriculum Maps. Item F, I'm sorry. Item G, which was the Ready Gen resources to support curriculum maps.
I have a question on that.
Go ahead,
For-
Ms. Gonzalez.
For the, I don't know if this is for you, Dr. Cesario. For these resources, for text maps, or, curriculum maps, are they materials that we can use year-round, and then every year we can use the same materials? Or is this in preparation for next semester? Like
So
what?
that's a good question. So, and I think this also addresses some of the concerns about getting materials in a timely manner. So I've said this in a number of meetings before, not specifically related to the materials, but we're, with the curriculum mapping that we're doing, and now the curriculum writing we're doing, we're building this as we go, right? We're not, and we're doing it collectively. We could have done this as a team here at Lincoln Center with all the curriculum experts and just handed a binder to the teachers, but remember the purpose here was in the process, not the product. With that being said, is as we move into these next phases, then we have to purchase for the next phase. And that's the juncture we're in right now. We have to purchase for the next phase.
Okay.
So that combined with the fact that we're having shipping issues and everything else, like, and that is, with everything, that it is making it much more difficult.
Okay.
And then once it gets here, there's a process that we have to stamp, we have to inventory, we have to send out. I'm going to let Lisa add on any additional details, but that's essentially what it is. We're building the ship as we move along because of this process that we took. And we took this process because we were focused more on developing and learning as a team rather than just having a product and handing it over.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to add and answer your specific question about if we're going to use the materials again. We will be using the materials. Oh, so sorry. We will be using the materials again on a consistent basis. However, remember that a curriculum map is a live document, and we are taking teacher feedback as we go, and so we'll constantly be revising. So there might be some changes moving forward in the K-5 maps, but for the most part, they will stay the same resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's more too, because we built
I
it
have a
on
question.
by literacy, and we built it on the fact that we're trying to be culturally responsive too.
That's
so we
exactly
added a lot more materials.
That's
And I see that.
Can you say that in the microphone?
So sorry, I forgot my own
It's in your
about being at the mic. So we've also developed this on the foundation of biliteracy. That's so that in a dual language classroom or a gen ed classroom or a one-way dual or a two-way dual classroom, we can still use this curriculum map, right? For diverse learners, for everybody. So with equity in mind. With that being said, we've also started to incorporate materials that are in Spanish, but in a number of different languages, but as well as culturally responsive literature as well. In doing so, we have a lot more materials, right? So we do have some software programs that help with that, but having authentic literature in hand is something that we also wanted to focus on. And we're going through a process. We're just trying to really figure out how to do this in a manageable way, even considering the other issues that we're dealing with around shipping and other, resources, getting them in a timely manner.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Ambrose, you know what I'm gonna say, don't you?
Is that a question for me or for?
Ms. Ambrose, you know what I'm looking for. Literacy. Okay, you said the biliteracy, get that, got that. The primary phonics. Is that included in the primary stuff for our students?
Yes, it is written in detail in the maps for kindergarten all the way up. So we have those foundational skills all built in. Our CKLA purchase that we made the previous year, we rolled that out this year, and that's supplementing and supporting what our foundational skills are in the maps. So the teachers are using that along with all of the resources to drive our curriculum. So our literacy is actually, I don't want to go off the tangent here, but our literacy is actually a social studies literacy block and a science literacy block. So we're hitting everything, all of the standards.
What about reading?
It's all part of it. So they're doing all of the ELA, the literacy standards, within the context and theme of a science or of a social studies.
And worksheets.
Okay, because reading is fundamental.
Yes.
And we have to make sure, because they can get the math and the science, but they got to get the reading first.
That is our goal.
Can't get the science and the math
Can't
without
get-
reading.
without reading.
I mean, so
That is
that's
our
the
goal.
issue there.
Absolutely, and so
So
it's-
reading is the most essential, and
That's
I'm
right.
glad to see it. And
That's
thank
right.
you for
And-
reinforcing it, Ms. Hannah.
That's right. And so, you know, it's good with the math and the science, okay? But if we want to get our kids where we want them to be, we got to make sure our children are literate.
That's right.
They have to read.
Yes.
And there's no substitute for that.
Nope. And that's why we're investing so much across the board in literature, right? That it's not just in reading, but there's reading in math, there's reading in social
course.
studies,
That's
there's reading in
elementary.
everything. And I think that's the gist of what Ms. Ambrosia was
I
trying to say.
understand.
Yeah,
I understand,
that it's embedded in everything.
Right, it is, but we still must,
Be explicit in what we're doing with literacy.
reading.
Yes,
with getting our students' reading levels up.
yes,
Right.
agreed.
Mr. Riddle.
And I was only going to say that as I look through this $289,000 worth of books and looking at these titles, I would get excited about reading some of these things. I mean, you've got everybody's interest in there. You know, just so many different topics. So when Ms. Gonzalez and I visited some of the schools and saw these kids and the books they were reading, you know, it's exciting. They're reading science, they're reading literature they're reading poetry, and then they're writing it as well. So I mean, you're hitting everybody's interest here. And it's in English and it's in Spanish. I mean, take a look at some of these titles, Ms. Hannah. They look really exciting, you know, for children, and even you know, and in science, in all kinds of different things, poetry.
So
in there.
we should be also, we should also be excited to know that our students' reading scores are going to go up. That in this next testing cycle. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, and I think that was
All of this
something else
stuff going on.
that yes, and I think that's something else that we see is that the teacher practice and the teachers working with our students is also having a huge impact.
We should be saying it. So
We definitely want to see improvement of where we tested them from beginning of the year, where they came in from the COVID slide, right? So we have to be realistic that our kids did lose some academic time when they were off. But definitely, we are using that BOY data as a baseline.
And may I say something, Superintendent? When I'm used to when we brought when new materials and so forth were brought into the district, the board always had an opportunity to preview the products before it was purchased and all of that. And I really miss doing that, because if I could see it and it you know, and it makes, you know.
Yes. So board members are
Have an
welcome at
impression
any
on
time
me.
to come to the curriculum council meeting and witness what happens there, and to be a part of the steering committee meetings and the work that the teachers and the input that they provide, and working with the site-based administrators and the Lincoln Center administrators and decisions that are made around selections for literacy. Yes, of course, it can be a part of that.
I'm used to them bringing the stuff into the boardroom.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that up to the board to decide what they want to do, but I just want to leave an open invitation to those two areas.
I understand.
Thank you, Dr. Sakar.
Thank you for picking and your team for picking such interesting books. Like I said, I'd love to read them. One is on the incredible cave rescue of the Thai our soccer team. I mean, just all kinds of titles of great interest to boys and of course girls. Got great stuff there.
Yeah, we want to thank the teachers and the administrators who are doing the hard work to make this come to fruition. So, and the teachers in the classrooms who are working to implement this on a daily basis, it's not an easy shift, and they're doing a wonderful job considering everything else that they're dealing with right
And
now.
it isn't stuff like I did, in school when you had a textbook and you had stories that were...
Through the pandemic, because we knew how important it was, and countless hours on the phone, on the computer, all the time. So I just want to make sure that I'm giving a special shout out to Lisa Ambrosio for that work. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McBride?
To Ms. Hannah's point, it always was a presentation done with any curriculum material that was bought, and it was actually just like you done the presentation with the career to college. There was always a presentation done when you bought material for the school district.
Sure.
It was done, and it was explained. I mean, I'm looking at what's being bought, but I'm saying it was always visual, and somebody came to explain it.
Sure. So I just want to make it clear that whenever we are doing anything programmatic, we do bring that over here. These are titles, so when we're purchasing books, we don't bring every single book in to show. I mean, there are titles that we can show you the titles, but when we change it, now what I mean by programmatic is Everyday Math, Carnegie Math, Ready Gen. We definitely would bring that in and talk to you about it because it's a very lengthy commitment and a large expenditure. With these books, if that's something that you would like to discuss and that you're requesting from us, of course we'll comply. But there are lengthy lists of novels and books
What I'm
too.
saying to you, for you to make a decision to purchase these books, you had to sit down and evaluate and look at what you're getting ready to spend your money on. So basically, you're saying in order for us to be able to have that same knowledge, we have to attend these meetings in order to see that. But in the past, I'm saying before, the presentations were done here. We were able to see what was going on.
And what I was saying is...
And I'm sorry, Deputy Cesario. What he's saying is that's a decision for the board with what we want to see. And what I'm hearing as your board president is that our meetings are too long. So every time we ask for another presentation.
No, it's not about the presentation, sir. It's about me being able to.
So Ms.
pick
Hannah
up
would
a
like to
book.
see the products. Can we bring in product examples before we ask for any purchases? That's it.
Is that consensus of the board?
That's fine.
Because
She's
what-
asking
can-
for it, and
yeah.
what I'm saying is for us to move this dialogue along. Mr. McBride is saying that it would be good.
Can I
it
just
be
state one
done?
thing? I just like to say, we do hire experts to vet these materials. You're gonna look at books when they vetted them. I mean, we can bring them so you can see the quality, bring a few of them and lay them, I mean, I don't know what you're I guess I'm not understanding the ask.
Because,
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Yeah, it's not, because we have to purchase these books. We have to give okay to spend money for these materials. And the practice, the district practice for 25 years has been that the Board of Education is able to, the administration, they would bring in, I'm not talking about 999 million books in the boardroom. I'm talking about examples of the materials, and they're brought in where we could take and we could look at what is, so that we could see what we're buying, not just by being told.
I understand what you mean.
Do you want to say something, Charlotte?
I was just saying, could that be done not during the meetings, but
Yeah.
as a precursor to the meetings or at some after the meetings?
It'll
not
be here,
during-
like you say, we'll work with that. They want examples in order to see the books and materials.
You can stop by.
It's fine, like you said, we don't have to have a lengthier presentation about what the materials are. I agree, if it's a program like Ready Gen, Everyday Math, which we receive, they will. When it's these curriculum purchases, if we can get examples or even the marketing material from the organizations that we're ordering from, that would help some of the board members with their decision-making process.
Yeah, because right now, we're just ordering.
We see it right here, what's being ordered. If we Google the book, these are book titles, right? So, and again, that's fine. I'm just talking about this specific item. Ms. Hannah is talking about a practice.
And it worked out well.
Haven't had any issues with the materials that we purchased thus
We
far.
haven't done it in 5 years, but if you want it, we can do it. It's not a
So
problem.
we are at 5H, Pre-K College Career Center at AOEC.
Quick question.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
I'm really excited about this. For me, I don't think it's big enough, but okay.
It's a start.
It's a start, and so that's just my only thing. But the main question I'm looking for is usage, right? So I don't want this to be another room that's not going to be used frequently and as often. So I'd like to understand if you guys have a plan how you're going to cycle in our 6th to 12th graders into this room, which will be located at AOEC.
So I think that's a great question, and I think it folds really well into the high school plan and the middle school redesign plan that we're working on in terms of articulation that has to occur between elementary and middle and high school and college and career planning, because the college and career planning doesn't start when they walk in the high school door. It should start really, what research says, it should start in elementary school really, 5th grade. And so I think it's setting expectations. We have this room, what are we doing with it? What are the expectations of every principal, of every counselor, of every teacher in the district? How are they using it? How are we utilizing it? How are we showing it to our elementary students in terms of, this is what you do when you start planning and thinking about it. Here are resources that are available in the district so that you can start thinking about college, you can start thinking about career at an early age. You can start researching it. This is an area where you can get that done. And I also think it's being strategic and holding sessions in there with community members that are in certain careers, with local universities, using CLC as a partner and having them hold regular meetings there about this. So to your question, I think it's about really being strategic and intentional with the planning, and it starts with setting expectations and then having an implementation plan.
Okay, yeah, because I'm hoping that our students have been exposed to this room at least a minimum of 4 times, right?
And I think that's something like to discuss,
Exactly,
right? Like the
right,
minimum
so-
expectations at every grade band, right?
Exactly.
We probably don't want pre-K in there right off the bat because they might not know. But I think that, yes, I think to your point is like setting those developmentally appropriate expectations.
And I just want to just make a comment that I do like the furniture that is expected to be in there. I mean, it looks like a corporate office that I would go to. So for those that are just thinking about going straight into a career program or into a university level, so I'm really, and I really enjoy the look of this. Just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Board President.
My only thing goes back to we still haven't seen our strategic plan as it relates to our college and career, and so these things are great as we move forward. But I would like to see that the same way that we saw FACE and some of the other things to make sure that when we're approving these purchases that they align with what we set out in the strategic plan.
Board President, that's going to be presented in November student achievement meeting. It is completed. They're putting some finishing touches on it. And it will be coming back in November. December, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We are in November, I'm sorry, December.
Thank you. With that, I would like a motion to adjourn.
I motion.
And if we can meet back got a motion and a second, if we can meet back at 7:30 for our next meeting. Roll call.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle? Mr. McBride? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. Meet back at 7:30. 6:30, so I would like to call to order the OSC meeting for November 16th, 2021. If I can have a roll call, please.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes,
Ms.
present.
Callahan Wozniak here. Ms. Leguizamo?
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez? Mr. Ewing?
Here, so we do have a quorum. We're going to continue with our committee meeting. We are at item 3A, approval of the meeting minutes for the October 19th, 2021 OSC meeting.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. All right, we are at our discussion item. It's always fun. This is our 2021 tax levy.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Good evening, board members, superintendent, staff, and community. I'm going to ask for the first two items, Ms. Polk to come up to talk about our tax levy as well as our property tax relief grant.
Board President, board members, superintendent, and community. I'm going to go through this. I think that my staff presented much of this information at the last meeting. But what I have on the screen before you are actual extension amounts for tax year 17, 18, and 19. You'll note the third row from the bottom that in tax year 2017, we taxed, the actual tax extension was $51.3 million. In 2018, it was $52.4 million. And in tax year 2019, the same, because the board asked us to keep it level. You'll also notice across the bond row, the second from the bottom, that our amounts were somewhat consistent across those years. Next slide, please. On this slide, I know it's a little small, but hopefully we'll be able to get the message here. If you look at the same, the cap total without bond and interest, you'll see for the 2020 actual extension, 52.4, which is exactly the same amount because the board asked us to keep it level. The tax levy, as was explained to you at the last meeting, we typically do not go above the 5%. We have the ability to do that, but we always go just below it so that we really don't have to do the truth in taxation, but we do it for transparency's sake. So you'll notice here, our tax levy is $55 million, but we don't believe that we're going to do that, and that's at the 4.98%. So we're below that amount. What we really believe that we're going to get, the projected extension, is $53.3 million, which is an increase of $921,000, provided we go this route. And I explain why we kept it this way. Next slide, please. I know that some of you were asking what would be the implications for homeowners without the tax relief grant. You'll note, if I go back to that next slide, let me go back because I need to point something out there. That bottom row, I don't have it on this slide, so I can't show you. Next slide. I didn't add it. But our bonds are going down tremendously. We had a $6 million bond payment for this tax year, but we're going down to $3 million. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we refinanced so that we could lower the balloon payments, and so now it's paying off for us. So now our bond payments are down to like $3 million something dollars. So we're going to have a reduction in the property taxes. So you'll note for those of us who are not considered seasoned or seniors, for a house that is about, I think, $170,000, there's going to be a dollar reduction of $36.12. compared to last year's tax bill. For someone who is a senior, we're estimating that it's going to be about a $24, $25 reduction. Most of this is because the taxes, amount that we're paying on the bonds is lower.
Is it a reduction or an increase? Because this is dollar increase.
It's a reduction. That bracket around there, that's a reduction.
Oh, dollar, yeah.
The numbers.
Increase?
Yeah, 3612 on those of us have not met that threshold for senior. And then for those that are seniors, we're looking at about a $25 reduction on the bill. Next slide, please.
Wouldn't it be the other way around?
What do you mean?
Senior. So I guess because their EAP is less.
Yes.
Yeah. Next slide. What we did is we used the same homes that we use in the comparison, but we included the $8.2 million in the tax relief grant to see what the implications will be for those who are not seniors and those that are seniors. And you'll note that it's a $348 reduction and $396 reduction.
I love that number better.
But I need to reiterate what our staff said to you at the last meeting, the implications of applying for the tax relief grant. Next slide. Next slide. The statute says that districts are required to abate taxes for 2 years. So that $8.2 million will have to abate for 2 years. But the first year we'll get 90% of that. I heard the meeting. We'll get 90% of that and we'll have to forego 10%. So that we have to keep in mind. The plus, however, if we take this grant, then that becomes a base in our evidence base. So that's a plus. And also, remember for 2 years when the board told us to keep our taxes level, we lost that base in our taxes from year to year. So this is a plus for us because if we do this, the statute says that we'll be able to keep that amount in whatever we abate in our tax base. So that's a plus for doing this grant. Next slide, please. This I think they showed this to you, what would have to happen in the first year, and the second year, and then the third year. And so I want to say we would lose that 10%, and then we don't know what will happen to us if we take this $8 million, which would be put on our evidence base number, if we're going to move up from level 1 to level 2. The closer you get to adequacy, the less money that you're going to get, because they're saying you're getting enough to educate your students. So we can't really tell the board at this time how much that would be. But we normally get between $6 million to $8 million each year as an increase in evidence-based funding. So we don't believe that we will lose $8 million, but we can't definitively tell you what that is. Next slide. And so again, this explains just what I said about that being included in the evidence-based funding base. So it's a plus for us. We would like to, I've nodded yet. I know you nodded at the last meeting, but I wanted a definitive yes, and then we'll apply for this evidence-based, the tax relief grant.
I see two, is it one hand or two hands? One hand. Ms. Leguizamo.
Ms. Polk, just really quick question. I'm not sure if you know this yet in regards to the grant. Do you know that if we do get the award for the tax relief grant, do we have to accept it, or do we have the option to not accept it?
Well, we have the option not to accept it, but they're asking us if we apply for this to accept it, because what happens is there's a line for those that receive the grant and don't. And so we would harm other districts that otherwise would have gotten it had we not applied. So I
And the
would ask
reason
that
why-
we're sure we want to do it when we apply for it.
Right, and the reason why I was wondering is, you know, at that time, that would be able to, we would have our EAVs, we'd have the grant money, we'd be able to fully assess what that looks like 2 to 3 years down the line in regards to our adequacy level and such. So that's why I was just kind of
Yeah.
wondering if that was the case.
Yeah, we won't know what the actual EAV is until about March timeframe. We did call the county to get the numbers that we used and this preliminary calculation. So we're comfortable at this time. And even with other things that we're aware of in the business office, I think that this is a good idea to do, especially if we want to keep the taxes level. Because we would, again, reduce our tax base by that $1 million, and we would be harmed by that for future years. But with this, we would be able to retain that, and then it's in our tax base. We wouldn't lose anything.
And just out of clarification, so your office is A, recommending this, and B, has projected some numbers out to 3-5 years, just trying to get some clarity around that.
I always project 2 to 3 years, not 1 year ever.
Love it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And
I got a question from Mr. Vukovic, Ms. Hannah. Mr. Vukovic?
Yes, sir.
You said that $8.1 million that it would be retained in the tax base?
Yes, I think that all grants received by the school, because I don't have my glasses on, let me go back to mine.
You're saying as far as the EAV, that would be retained there?
Yes.
If this grant disappeared in the future, a future board could get that money back? Is that what you're saying?
We could abate it?
No, I mean, you were saying that the assessed valuation
Yes.
is still there.
Yes, it would be there. This statute that is up on the screen right now says that it would still be, even though we abated whatever money we're getting from the state of Illinois for that tax relief grant, we would not be harmed by that abatement. It would be retained in our EAV base. Yeah. And that's the plus for us, because if we were to abate it, we would lose $8 million for future years, and that would not be an ideal thing for any organization to do.
Not especially if you need more money.
Correct.
Taxpayers, the only remedy is a referendum.
Correct.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Never happened
Yeah, that was a good question, so that we can clear that up. And really, I was looking at that, lost a lot of sleep over the weekend. Staff can tell you that. I was like, is this good for us? You know, but I was saying we lost $2 to $3 million over the last few years by reducing the taxes, and we could never get that back. You know, so in this case, if we do this, even if we say we're going to keep the taxes level, at least we can retain something. And we're not harming the district, and the district has the ability at any time to abate more, or, you know, more if they choose to do that.
So,
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
so, okay, we're going to try our hand again at this grant. And our chances better this third time, because if we did it twice, we did not get it. And third time, we're gonna hope it's the charm. Okay, but there is no guarantee.
There is no guarantee, and this has absolutely nothing to do with our district. It has everything to do with our tax rate. We're not taxing enough. Those districts that are taxing high are those that are chosen to reduce the taxes for the constituents. So it's not a bad thing. We're choosing to lower our taxes, but at the same time, we don't qualify because we're not high enough on the list for high taxes.
We can't have it both ways, right?
We can't have it both ways.
Right. So if we don't get it, it's okay, I guess.
It's okay,
Kind of.
and I hope the will of the board that we,
Asterisk.
I mean, I'll state it here, and I know Ms. Polk, but I would hope that we are still in a pandemic, and that the intention of this board is to keep our taxes flat for another year.
And that's why we're recommending this option.
It doesn't hurt to try.
No, and like you say, the worst they can say is no, and if we get it,
Right.
And I did speak with the county assessor, and we are in, well, he told me, now if he wasn't accurate, I can't say anything about it, but he told me we're doing a quadrennial tax assessment this year.
I don't know.
This is,
I could check on that and bring that back to you, but I'm
yeah,
not sure.
according to what he
know?
said.
I don't know. I don't know.
According to what he said.
Yeah, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, that we're in the quadrennial assessment
I'm not
cycle.
sure.
So,
I can look that
yeah,
up.
you could, would you ask again to make sure that I was hearing what he was telling me?
and so if you want to get the head nod, I think.
Yes, please.
Is there anybody who's shaking their head no? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Polk. We appreciate it. And thank you guys for the work. Like you say, we may apply for it 10 times. I say every time we apply for it, and hopefully we get it.
Yeah.
We are at item B.
Who are the Panthers?
Hmm?
Who are the Panthers?
Soccer request, the attachments there. Do you have more information specifically on the organization outside of what's being presented, Mr. Moulton?
Yes, we can bring back more specifics, Ms. Anna, but this
No, I
is
just want to know, who are they?
Yeah,
Are
this
they
is-
from Waukegan?
this
Are
is
they
a
from
this is a local soccer club that wants to rent our facilities.
I didn't hear you.
This is a local soccer club that would like to rent our facilities.
Okay, I just want to know, because I see a lot of soccer going on at the different school locations. And so, okay.
Yeah, this is indoor season.
All right, so C, approval of the partial facility rental for Lake County Community Concert Association 2022.
They still asking for waivers, huh?
Every year.
Not a complete waiver, just a partial waiver of security and stuff.
D, approval of facility rental waiver request for soccer practice at Clearview. E, approval of facility rental waiver request for Dragon soccer team. F, abatement of 500,000 qualified school construction bonds, QSCB.
Well, now, could you please explain that, Mr. Moulton?
Ms. Polk is coming to the microphone.
Several years ago, when we got this bond for renovations, we said that we would pay for this out of the operations and maintenance fund. And so we're abating it because it was a 16-year obligation.
So this was for our
Capital improvements.
capital improvement
Yes.
project?
Yes.
The 40 million?
Not the 40 million. This was the most, was it 12? 16 million, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we obligated this to be not taxed, but paid out of our local money. And that's what this is.
Okay.
All right. Next up is intent to proceed with items approved in the 2021-2022 site-based budget, SBB program.
What is that? The new computers for operations.
We weren't there yet. Nobody has questions on,
Yeah, we were just talking about. the
Maybe I could
abatement.
just ask a question, if you would.
I'm sorry, where did I go? So I'm at G, new
G,
computers for
computers, yeah.
operations required for Aruba Wi-Fi.
Those are for the
Custodians.
facility maintenance, well, not so much maintenance, cleaners and stuff in the buildings, right? What do they actually do with their computers other than right, maybe enter the time they're in or whatever? I'm just curious what a custodian does with a computer.
A lot.
A lot.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all. The custodians do all of their correspondence with the main office, the operations office, via emails, and we push the school dude work orders out to the schools through the computers that they have in their tiny little offices in a broom closet someplace in the school. The computers that we had in there were the salvaged ones from all over, and with our new Aruba wireless system, it told those computers, sorry, you cannot get on anymore. So we finally had to break down and get new computers for custodians at all the schools, and there are 6 of them going in the operations department at 215 Edison.
Okay. Thank you much. Thank you.
H, comment incentives, copay, lighting improvements, phase 2.
It's Johnson Controls, right? No?
What was the question, Ms. Hannah?
Would that have anything to do with Johnson Controls?
Not this agenda item. This is for lighting improvements for phase 2. This isn't a Johnson Controls item.
I, asbestos abatement at Waukegan High School, Washington campus. J, intent to proceed with items approved in the 2021-2022 site-based budget SBB program.
And what items are we approving?
The signs for the schools.
So these were items that were submitted in the site-based budgeting documents that the school submitted that were approved with the budget adoption in September. So we listed these items that need some engagement with the operations department, particularly items that may require board approval. So we're bringing them forward as information now before we ask you to approve the purchase.
No, the 8 new bottle fillers, are we at the juncture where we have at least 3 of those drinking the bottle fillers in each building?
Yeah, I'll confirm that for you, Ms. Hannah. We do have bottle filler stations at every school site, but I'll need to confirm specifically if we have a minimum of 3. Later on the agenda, you'll see that we're going to purchase 40 additional because we want to continue to add to that program.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to hear.
Thank you, and the items are listed there as well as the attachments for anybody from the community who may want to look at what those were, and they would also be in the budget adoption meeting that we had back in September and July, I believe June. We are now in, we were at J, so K, asbestos abatement of Waukegan High School, Washington campus girls locker room.
How are the girls going to use, well, when are we going to do this? Huh?
So we did the emergency work where we removed the section of ceiling that came down, but we want to schedule to do removal of the rest of the room.
I say, when are we going to, or when did we do it?
So we previously did the 2x2, the rest of the room. Want a break? Okay. Yeah. So this work has been completed. The room was not occupied while it was abated.
L, foundation repairs at AOEC. M, intent to proceed with purchase of water bottle fillers 40. N, capital improvement committee recommendations for project design.
Well, what were the recommendations? Can we talk about them?
Do you have questions about them?
What are they?
For the HVAC system at the schools listed.
Their attachments, Hannah.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. White.
I do want to highlight one of the big ones, which people would say and maybe question, which is the IT closets, air conditioning of IT closets. While we may say, why do you need to air condition an IT closet? But it is a huge need, and as we further support the one-to-one initiative and do more electronically with our devices and increase the, we need internet and access to internet and technology. So this will help with that and keep our buildings up and running and our students able to remain connected and accessible to their devices.
And more importantly, it keeps the devices at the temperature that they need to be at, and so that they don't destroy themselves. That's what that's for.
Yep. Mr. Wozniak.
I'm excited to see that Brookside traffic improvement and repaving is finally getting done. The potholes are
Terrible.
atrocious.
But now, one thing I don't see though, I don't see anything about the parking lot at Wise Field.
It's not,
It's not happening this time, Miss Hannah. It's not happening this time.
Well, how are we, I get it, but just a question. How are we having activities at Wise Field, and the entrance and the exit is in disrepair?
So, as a committee member, right, I'm not speaking on administration, I'm speaking as this was a committee recommendation and I sit on the committee. There were talks about extensive renovations to Wise Field. And what we do is the same approach that we take in the finance department is we look at everything that needs to be done, that should be done, and then we evaluate it. So we have a budget, it's not a limitless supply. And so we took and we ranked all of the items, and the items that we could afford to do, that we had the time to do, that were needed to be done. And it was a very extensive process that involved tons of people. This is what the recommendation is. So it's not saying that none of those things are important or more important or less important or shouldn't be done. I just want the board to know, and I can do a further report during the committee meeting, that all of that was taken into consideration, and based on all of that being taken into consideration, this is what the committee is recommending. If Ms. Hannah, any board members, as always, you can make other recommendations, you can say that they want to change it. I just know that the committee has done the work, met 3 times, hours and a half at a time, met even remotely, went through the budget process, and discussed a lot of those things at length.
Mr. Ewing?
Yep.
How did Lincoln Center get overlooked?
It wasn't, that's not a part of our capital improvement
Well, I'm
plan.
saying, how did it get overlooked? I come through here and I know sure you got to, I drive a truck. And it's potholes from the time you come in to the time you go out, even all the way to the back. And unless I'm missing something, and I'm surprised, ain't nobody said nothing about that.
It's not nobody said anything. Again, just like Wise Field, as we discussed it. And if we do not know what we're going to be doing with Lincoln Center in 2 or 5 years or what the next life is, why invest heavily now when you have things like roof replacements and asbestos abatement and new playgrounds that are needed? So it wasn't saying that that's not important. Again, with the budget that we had and the money that we had and the input from the
I still need to say
committee.
this. I wasn't on the committee.
Right.
But what I'm speaking of,
It's 2 people that were appointed.
No, but what I'm speaking,
Me and Mr. Riddle have been on the this committee for the last 2 years. It's
And
not
we have a
new.
10-year plan.
And it's a 10-year
It's
capital
a
improvement
10-year
plan.
This is just the
but
reiteration
I
of
want
the
to say,
10-year plan.
I wasn't on the committee, but what I'm bringing up now, it's been brought to those that's in charge dealing with this, and nobody still did anything about it. I mean, it's bad out there. It's really bad. I mean, I'm not the only one can see that.
I'm telling
I mean,
you
it's
why.
flat holes from the time you come in all the way out the door. And this is where the public comes in at, and we see it. I mean, it's just, I don't understand it.
And that's the same thing with Wisefield. But see, what people are failing to realize is that once the issue has been brought to the administration, we are now liable if people's cars are damaged, be it wheel alignments, be it busted tires, be whatever, we are now liable because we are and have been made aware of the problem.
So what from this
just
list
know
would you
that.
change?
Yeah, that's what I was
That's
gonna
the
ask.
issue. What are you
I'm
gonna
not
drop?
asking to change anything.
Gotta drop
But
something.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why we can't even, just patch the holes.
Now, that's what I was going to say.
I mean,
It don't take that much asphalt. Don't take that much asphalt to take care of that lot out there.
This is specific things. That's what I'm saying. It's not every construction project in the district.
Mr. President,
done nothing.
Mr. President, could I just add, because I was on the committee too, the roofing. This is a very expensive item. Roofing replacement at Brookside Pinwheel. That roof is in danger of caving in. It's so bad. Okay, now that project, I believe, Mr. Moulton, was $4 million or something. It was quite a bit, wasn't it? Not that much. Was it
5.8.
several million?
Mr. Riddle. It was a
big
large
project,
section of the campus.
biggest on this list. But Mr. Kruckelberg didn't want to, put up beams to hold that roof up and have somebody patching it every day. So it was a big item. The board talked about a lot of projects, but we have to pull something off this list. And if you're not going to pull the biggest project, then you start pulling 4 or 5 or 6 projects off. So you're going to take away the playgrounds, you're going to take away the...
We do not have an unlimited supply of funds and resources. And as much as I would like for Ms. Polk to squeeze as much from that limit as we can, we take that into consideration. And so I'm not saying that anything that the board is saying is unwarranted. I'm saying that as somebody who has championed renovation projects and who sat on the committee with the 10-year capital improvement plan that identified over $100 million and needed. This was just to get...
This ain't the first time we've done the 10-year safety plan and all that stuff.
Nobody said it was the first. No one said, can I finish my statement? You don't like when I interrupt you. And so what I'm saying is we identified in the 10-year life safety plan, no matter which one it was, that we had over $100 million in projects that needed to be done. These were not want to do, should do's. These are things that we have to do. And I got this board to approve $30 million over 3 years. That's $10 million a year. So $30 million towards $100 million in needed projects means that we have to prioritize each year. And I'm fine with the board saying that they want to spend more money on these things. And if that's a conversation that we want to have next year, I'm 100% for it. But given the budgets that we had, what we had approved, and the time of all those that were involved on the committee, I have to defend the fact that everything that everybody's talking about now was taken into consideration on that committee. And that's why we're bringing you our best recommendations. If any board member would like to speak with Deputy Moulton and talk through why that was decided over something else, we're open to that conversation. But the only way we get some of those other projects done is by the Board of Education approving more funds.
Well, Mr. Ewing, I spoke to Mr. Kuckenberg and Mr. LeBaron about what I'm talking about now over the summer, and nothing still hasn't been done, not even patched.
If I could just respond to Mr. McBride real quick. So we have several parking lots in the district that need full-scale replacement like we're proposing at Brookside campus. We're not saying that they're perfect. However, what our maintenance department does every year is they go through with patch on the back of a truck and they fill in the potholes, and we have to redo it every year because a lot of that gets undone during plow season. So we're going through the process of doing that. That's just an annual thing until a parking lot can get a full-scale replacement. So Mr. McBride, I appreciate your concern in bringing that up, and every year we go through that program, and unfortunately every year some of those holes get a little bit worse as the plows go over them. But we're trying to prioritize as best we can the paving replacements, and we're trying to focus it on the areas that get the highest use, the highest need, where we've experienced concerns in the past.
Well, still, I'm going to say I still don't see why this is overlooked. This is Lincoln Center.
Can I?
This is where the public comes, and this is where the public come. And I come here. I have to come here twice a week and run in them potholes. The only reason I can get back is I got a truck, and the potholes just is not right here all the way around the world. Then when they did come, they had patch. And don't tell me nothing about no potholes and plow and stuff. That's what I did. And that's not right.
That was your forte, huh?
So Kevin, can you please look at the potholes at Lincoln Center and get them filled, please?
And
Thank you.
Scheduled for another patching.
Thank you.
And didn't I say something to you about it? Didn't I say something to you about that? And you just looked at me like, well, I know.
Certainly did tell me
Right.
over the summer that it needed to be repaired or replaced. You did tell me that.
Ms. Gonzalez?
I wanted to, first of all, thank you, Mr. Moulton, and thank you, President Ewan, for explaining that, because I think what we miss sometimes in getting into this back and forth is that we, as a board, I feel like we should ask ourselves to be consistent. We can't in one meeting say that we don't want Lincoln Center or the administrative buildings to get all the attention and not focus on the schools. And then during this conversation, say that we need to focus on the administration building and work on Lincoln Center, because you can't have both and flip-flop. And, you know, kudos to the committee, because y'all are putting our schools first and saying, hey, these $1 million projects, to not have the kids and the staff and the teachers, you know, worry about the roof over their heads, come first. And, you know, I would love to have unlimited resources to patch up every single building in this district. You know, I think y'all deserve the world, but it's about what we can do in the time that we have. And, you know, I wanted to make that comment because you know, the conversation kind of revolved around like we're being negligent. It's not that we're being negligent, it's just we need to put the best things first, and the best things that we can do first are for the kids.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Thank you for that. I have two questions. First, just can you clarify, is this an $8 million or $10 million budget?
So it's going to be a little bit more than that. One of the things the committee did this year was we looked at not just our local funds, which was the remaining balance of the $30 million resolution. We also looked at available health, life, safety funds and our capital improvements that are in our ESSER 3 grant. So we kind of combined all those. It's reflected on this list. There are some items, like the Brookside Roofing, as Mr. Riddle mentioned, that we've already bid out, that we could move forward with now, but there are several items on here that we need to do designs with our architects and put them out to bid, just to make sure that the bids come back and what we anticipate. We've seen a lot of fluctuations in the industry this year due to COVID and supply, demand, lead times, material prices, etc. So we're just asking for approval to move forward with designing these items. We're not going to be awarding any contracts at this time. We just want to make sure that what we have here is reasonable and realistic. And if we do see major cost fluctuations, then we may make a recommendation to defer a project or do some other shorter term maintenance in the meantime, just so we can stay within the budget constraints we have.
Thank you for that. And then the last question that I have is there are a few items on here that has the quote unquote like pending further review. Does that mean that those projects are, if we have money afterwards, we're going to handle that, or additional assessment needs to occur to make sure that it stays on this list? Just trying to understand that.
So that would be related to our anticipated occupancy at those locations. I believe you may be talking about the mobile sections. So that's due to anticipated occupancy that we will need versus what we currently have. We don't want to design something that's more space than we need or design something that's smaller than what we need. Currently, these sites have structures. The preliminary review was based on replacing like for like size-wise, but if we don't need as much space based on our current enrollment and projected enrollment in the next several years, then we're going to make an adjustment there.
And a question is, any committee person or yourself, Mr. Moulton, can answer this one. In regards to the mobiles, we were talking about it at one point, like scrapping all of them, right? That was the idea as to why we did a lot of the upgrades in a lot of our elementary schools. So the conversation around the mobiles, are we looking to keep them, or we're looking to still maybe get rid of them? Just was wondering if you guys have talked about that. What does that look like?
Yeah. So we did talk about that, and I thank you for the question. So some members from our academic team that were on the committee did make suggestions and recommendations based on how much space is needed at those schools and if we need to replace those mobiles in their entirety. And if we don't, we need to consider that so we're not building structures that are not used or become storage spaces at the schools. We want to be appropriate with that.
Thank you. Those were all my questions. Thank you, Board President.
Thank you, Ms. Leguizamo.
No, I'd like for you to keep in mind, the district, the community, the population of it, it's not going down, it's going up. And at some point, you may have to do exactly for the same reasons that we got the mobiles, so Jefferson and over at Clark and several other places. But you might want to keep in mind, they're not dying, they're multiplying.
So these are the recommendations. If there are further questions, we can get those to Deputy Moulton, and I'm sure if we have subsequent meetings, we can talk about it, but I do know that there are some bigger projects that will be needed immediate, right, next board meeting action on. So one of those being the roof, if I'm not mistaken. Is that coming forward the next Tuesday's board meeting?
Yeah, we're confirming everything now. We'll bring some items forward as early as next week so we can get the ball rolling. If the board recalls, at our last meeting, we did put a tentative timeline together from start to finish. So right now we're on pace to meet that timeline.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Anna.
Mr. Perkenberg, question. Now, the roof that we're going to be replacing on the school, is it the same type of roofing that we put on Washington campus? Was it the AOEC building? So it was the main building, right?
No, ma'am, the roof that we put on AOEC was a standing seam roof, it's a slope roof.
Right.
The roof that we're replacing at Brookside is a flat roof.
Mm-hmm.
And it currently has small insulation, a rubber membrane.
That's what I wanted to hear.
We're gonna have the ballast removed and have the roofing and insulation taken down to the metal deck,
Mm-hmm.
where we can make whatever repairs are necessary on the deck.
Right.
Before we start rebuilding.
Right.
The current standard for insulation, which is almost 3 times as much as what's there now.
Okay, okay. Because that's what I want when you said rubber.
There's
Because
a lot of different kinds of roofs.
I know, and I know we did one of the schools with that material that's supposed to last for a long time.
It's guaranteed for almost 40 years.
And yeah, and that's what I'm wondering if that's what we're going to be doing.
You told me that's the only kind of roof you want to see.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
So yeah, I do want to thank all of those involved on the operation, on the capital improvement committee. This is a big effort. There are a lot of people involved. We have parents, we have principals, we have operations, we have board members, teachers. We have everybody at the table, and that way we get varying opinions, and we have sometimes these heated debates as to why this, why not that. But anybody knows, and the 2 things that I heard, let's not forget about Lincoln Center. There were intentional decisions made by the committee that said, if we don't know what the next life of Lincoln Center will be, do we want to invest money there to have drastic changes in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years? And that was the same thing in Wise Field. My opinion is I no longer want, and I know that's not, it's how we've had to operate. We've had to do the emergency. And what I want to do is, if we're going to do Wise Field, what does it cost to do Wise Field, right? Not do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. And so there was an intentional conversation. If we're looking at a drastic renovation, let's not do that this year, given all the other priorities that we have that are listed on there. So I do want to make sure that I'm not saying that these things are not important, that they are not relevant, that given the information, the money, the time that we had, these are the committee's recommendations, and that's all that they are. Recommendations. But it is the recommendations of highly experienced people who've talked through this at length and detail and are giving you their best opinion as to what we should be doing.
Well, I just want to, not to put you two on the spot, but again, like I said, what I was requesting and asking for, it was passion in me, not just for me, but for the public, because the public comes through all the time. And I asked several times, and so what I didn't understand too, with an asking, you would come and stripe the lot over here, and that was backwards to me. How can you stripe something when you got holes in? So as a result of that, you know, again, like I said, that was just passing me. I seen stuff just wasn't right. And again, like I said, this is where the public comes every day. I mean, all day long. And those potholes, they were just totally ridiculous, to the point to where as though it was just ridiculous. And you know I talked to you, and you kind of smirked at me, but I thought maybe something would be done. And you're talking about the money. It didn't take a whole lot of money to bring some asphalt in and put in them potholes, but never did. It was almost like it didn't exist. So other than that, no intention to give you guys a hard time, because I know what you do. You're compassionate about it, and you're getting a lot done. I know that. All I have to do is look at the report here of the work that's ready to be done in the future.
We take no offense. You let me know what you wanted done, and if I had the funding to do it, I would have given you a full parking lot. But working with what we're given, so I respectfully say you didn't offend us in any way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
All right, next up is item O, mechanical improvements in multiple locations, statement of work number 3.
And the funding source for these, I guess maybe for all of the projects, okay? Is this coming out of your operation and maintenance budget? The 10-year life safety funds? What's the funding source?
So, Ms. Hannah, if you're referring to item O, mechanical improvements, that's ESSER 2 and local funds.
Right, that's what I'm, yeah.
ESSER 2 and
At the
local
bottom,
funds, it's
below the
I see it.
highlighted.
Okay, I see it. Okay. Now, okay. As long as they are Title I buildings, we can use that money, right?
Yes, ma'am, the ESSER funds. So we do
ESSER
have some funds in local. It's about a 75-25 split. ESSER 2, 75, local 25.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this came up when we discussed this initially this summer at the Trapp Auditorium.
Right.
We had Welcome Center on the listing, but we can fund non-school buildings essentially with our local funds as part of this program.
Right.
But not
Okay.
the ESSER 2 funds will go to the schools.
Right, okay.
Mr. Moulton, I just want to thank you for prioritizing that diversity participation. It's at almost 20%, so I like seeing that.
All right, item P, risk management plan updates and overview.
I just...
Q, Abbott Middle School lunch tables, and I mean Q, R, S, T, and U are all of the same. My only, and again, I love the furniture. I know we do a great job, and I know sometimes we have principal requests and we want to honor those, but we have principal requests for the lunch tables at Washington and Washington High School, and they don't necessarily fit the space in an appropriate way. So as we're ordering furniture, let's keep those things in mind. And one, make sure that there's enough seats for every lunch period in those cafeterias. And if the design of that furniture doesn't support a seat for every student, that we don't purchase it. And I am going to ask that we keep that in mind with these purchases. Ms. Leguizamo, I saw your hand.
Yeah, that was what I was going to emphasize on, especially like at John Lewis, that has 176 seating with a 780 student population. With this new thing here, I mean, Miguel Juarez will have 192 seating, and they're a similar population to John Lewis, right? So there is definitely the configurations. I'm just concerned in regards to student seating, and that was taken into consideration. Thank you, Board President.
And no, these are lunchroom tables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the lunch periods, from what I've gathered during my visits at the school, they're broken up, and so the tables might be sufficient.
We will double and triple check to ensure that we do not have another Washington campus situation at these 5 middle schools.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, can we just digress?
What letter? P?
Yeah. And this goes back to what I was saying in terms of our parking lot issues with the risk management, and I'm looking at the relevant processes and practices for the district's formal risk management program, okay? And what I was talking about when I said that we become liable, what both I'm saying as well as Mr. McBride is saying, those are risk management issues, not just we want this done, okay, because it's in disrepair. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this very item with our risk management. And if I see the words that due diligence, we need to do our part in reducing the risk of someone being able, John Q. Public, being able to come and sue us for damages to their vehicles because of potholes. It happens. And I went to a law workshop that taught me that once an entity is made aware of the problem, and if they don't do things to resolve the issue and something happens, we are liable. That's all I'm saying. So when I talk about the Wisefield parking lot, and I'm not talking about going there, wiping, grinding it out and putting it all new. I'm not saying that. But those holes over there, they're craters and they can do damage to vehicles. That's all I'm saying. Risk management, we're talking about it right here.
So do we have a plan to patch those holes, Mr. Kruckenberg?
That's all I'm saying.
We'll certainly add it to the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Kruckenberg.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we are at V, AOEC College and Career Prep Center furniture purchase from Silver Fleet Inc. So we had that in the last item, and it's also here.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure the board was aware that purchase will need board approval, so we're going to bring that back. All the other items associated with the plan are more programmatic.
Are we using any of the vendors that we used during our renovations?
Which renovation?
For our furniture, we got a lot of...
Yeah, so we are being consistent with our suppliers. So Ms. Fulton has worked with a supplier that's consistent with other what the other schools are using in their classrooms, cafeterias, etc.
Right, but that wasn't the question. Question was, are we still using the same vendors when we did our big renovation project, the capital improvement project?
Are you're referring to the CDB project? The 12 elementary schools? This is a different vendor than that vendor.
Okay, that thank you.
Yeah, so again, my only point with these is I would like to see them come forward quicker. I see down when we have the reports, we have the supply chain shortage, and so we know that there's an extensive lead time. I see that some of these prep drawings go back to August 31st. We are again in the middle of the school year with college and career being the focus of this board and something that we said we wanted to see. Items like this, I don't want us to, delay in getting those before the board. And so I'm glad to see it moving forward. Just wish we would have been a little bit quicker because as I know, and Deputy Moden has told me many, many times, is that items that used to take 3 and 4 weeks are now 16 to 22, 24 weeks. So glad to see it moving forward and hope we can get it on the agenda so that we can limit that turnaround time as much as we can. So looking forward to voting on that next Tuesday. Next item is W, Little Fort Elementary Classroom Desk and Chair Furniture Purchase. And X, which is Office of Student Outreach Furniture.
Question.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
So these offices are planning to be redesigned, right? And I'm looking at the truancy officers' rooms, which has just a smaller desk, them on one side, 2 chairs on their side, and then I see Ozzy's room. It's referred to as Ozzy's room in here, and this person has a large L desk, cabinets and shelvings, and then also a little conference room. So I'm trying to understand the different roles in between the 2 different rooms and the different diagrams between the 2 different rooms, and why so much for one person and so little for more. Just trying to get that.
Mr. Moulton, Mrs. Leguizamo, I'm going to ask that we hold this because we went to look at a mental health facility yesterday, and we were discussing placement. So we're going to hold this right now because we may be moving things. We had initially had a vision of where things could go, but in looking at the new clinic yesterday, it may utilize more space. So let's hold this. We'll come back with this, and then we'll address it. So if you don't mind, we're going to hold this just so I can see placement, and I want to ensure with Dr. Hillary that the furniture she's ordering is going to fit. It may be the same location, and we'll have her speak to it, but if it's not, I want to make sure that the furniture is going to fit the new location. So let's just hold this till I can bring her back, okay?
Sure. And I have no problem. And I just want to just reiterate and clarify a little bit more, because in my workplace, I've gone into an open workplace, an open space workplace, right? And the
That's gonna be our
VP
concept.
and presidents of my organization have the same size desk I have, right? And that is just to be, it's to be more collaborative in regards to the environment, but it also gives them a particular space, a conference room area that everyone can utilize, and not just this is my conference room area. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to, and Mr. Moulton, I've given him a tour of one of my locations and what that looks like and what our VPs in our organization does, and how that sets a culture of collaboration. So that's where I'm coming from in regards to asking this. Is not that, one over the other or anything like that. I'm just thinking from an open space perspective and how to utilize this a little bit more.
And we are looking at that. We're going to be presenting a lot more information in this in December. So let's just table this if you don't mind, put a stick pin in it. I'm completely with you. I understand the open space concept. You have to also keep in mind, though, we deal with student confidentiality, right?
Yeah.
So it does vary, but we are going to come back. So I have a lot I'm bringing you in December that's going to make this make all sense. So if you don't mind, we'll just put a stick pin in this and come back.
Yep.
Because I agree with you. We don't want to buy furniture twice. And with the new clinic that we've seen yesterday, it has, it's going to change our plans. So I'm just going to ask for some patience, and we'll be back with it.
Ms. Gonzalez.
I was just gonna reiterate that because I thank you, Ms. Leguizamo, for saying that, because I think that, you know, you've always been very open and a proponent of like a modern design, and I think some of that, you know, in our classrooms is very, very critical. But like Superintendent Plasencia said, when you're dealing with sensitive students and in precarious situations, you want that intimacy, and so I just wanted to reiterate that for like people to know that you know, we can't always be open about hard situations, because sometimes that can put a student in a sensitive situation, and you know, that's all about being, you know, culturally competent and responsive to the student needs. So I understand the drawing from that perspective, but I appreciate your comment.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like my idea around that would be more centered and focused towards the student, right? So the student environment versus the manager environment, right? Because right now the way that it looks like it's a manager environment than a student environment, and so that I think is going to be a little bit more inviting for these vulnerable students that we have in our school district. So I know we're putting a pin on it, but I just, you know, I just want to just put like my open space concept kind of, and it's really more about like the student perspective and allowing that space to be utilized in a different manner than what we've always used it, like in general office spaces. Yeah. So thank you, Board President.
No, thank you, Ms. Leguizamo.
We're talking about students.
All right, and now we are at reports. So we have the supply chain shortage affecting food service industry. It's attached. My only request and concern is we all received, or majority of us received, an email from a community member, and we also saw a post on Facebook and social media. So just to reiterate expectations with our food vendor.
Because that was awful.
And we will be providing a written response to the Board of Education on our investigation of that.
Thank you. And so again, it is being addressed and has been addressed. Is that correct, Deputy Molden?
Yes.
Can I say something about the supply chain?
Go ahead, Ms. Anna.
Okay, I am working with some people, and we are in the process of making phone calls to our legislators, and we've come up with a possible solution for helping the national supply chain. And so I'll give you all another update at maybe the next meeting to see where we are on that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hannah.
All right, next up is student activity convenience accounts, bank reconciliation. All right, we got C, schedule of investments. And D, the treasurer's report. Thank you so much. With that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez. The second was Ms. Wozniak. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned.